Hello, brownies. Welcome back to the Pretty Brown Rise channel. Guys, I'm pushing through a migraine to get this one up for you. And I suspect that somewhere along the middle, it's going to become a little bit disjointed. But what I want you to know is the research is solid, first and foremost. Before I even mention a conspiracy theory and things of that nature, that means I have run across something a minimum of 3 times from 3 different sources. So I want you to know that I am pointing out weird coincidences and not actually accusing anyone of anything. I'm asking questions. That's very important. Another thing that I want is for you all to suggest what you want my next videos to be on. I've already realized that inadvertently, one of the people that was in my last video, is a person who has had legal troubles with and had to sue one of the people on Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's crazy how things are intertwined. So another thing that I'm thinking about in the spirit of learning is these bad contracts and bad record deals and entertainment deals that specifically Black artists or the talented 10th find themselves in. And I want to know if that's something you all will be interested in. Okay, let's get into the video. So let's rewind for a moment because I said we would have to go back and revisit that period of time between 2006 and 2007. So unlike the book, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. No, for these girls, 2006 to 2007 was just the worst of times. And it started with Kandi. So while she was trying to get that second solo album released, her home actually got broken into, but more specifically, she had a separate studio area, like in a mother-in-law suite or a pool house or whatever in the back of her home. So what Kandi said was she had let a friend borrow her house to throw a party. And then a few days later, her home was broken into, or she got robbed. Or more specifically, they didn't break in her home and steal her jewelry and anything valuable. They broke into her studio and they stole her music and her musical accolades. Now, I just thought that was bizarre. Now, what Kandi said was maybe it was young kids and they thought that literally the gold and platinum plaques were really made of gold and platinum. And for me, that dog just won't hunt. See, the thing is, the internet was on and popping by that time. So a simple search would have told them that. You got to remember, the younger the generations get, the more tech savvy and the more knowledgeable about this stuff that the kids get. So I don't think that. I really think that it was somebody who was jealous of Kandi's success. Because why would you steal that memorabilia? You're stealing her accolades. That just, I don't know. That's a little funny to me, but let's just move on from that and go to the next tragedy. So let's ease on down the road to another tragedy that happened in 2006 that I just can't quite get an exact date on it like I have for most things. And that is that hacking of Tamika's phone. Remember when she said that her phone was hacked in 2006 and Rocky called Sprint pretending to be, her ex-husband because like they've said, they all had each other's social security numbers and things of that nature. And what we also know about Rocky is they can keep this information for a long time and sit on it and wait to for the most opportune time to kind of use it and threaten you with it, right? Kind of like what they did with her sex tape that he stole. And it's just now coming out in 2023 that he was threatening her with releasing it, right? So that seems to be a common thing. Even some of the alleged mistresses have said that about him, how he will get kind of incriminating things on you and then keep it and hold it until, mad day or until he needs to get himself out of something. And what I wondered about that whole situation was, why did you do that? Why would you want to blackmail your sister-in-law? She never did say blackmail into what? Now, did she? I'm pausing right here so that I can say a few things. First and foremost, everybody involved is a liar. I'm just going to put that out there. I have a lot of other research that has been left on the cutting room floor, but not only am I not getting the views on this topic anymore, I'm not being financially supported or compensated. So it does not make sense for me to go on any further here, but just know that everybody involved in this situation is a liar, and there are holes in this story, even with all the receipts that she provided, that I could both drive a truck through and then also add a whole lot more to. For the core part of her receipts, with the actual full receipts and documentation, she is spot on, right down to the addresses, right down to the LLCs, right down, it all checks out. I'll just say that. But also, there's still something weird here. We were never explained why the phone hacking and blackmailing happened in 2006. What was that for? And I'm just saying there's a weird overlapping coincidence with the the things that happened with Kandi and just the things that Tamika did thereafter, right down to the level of self-sabotage that went into her going on this radio show after she had finally gotten back into the good graces of Tyler Perry. It took her years to get back in good. And instead of promoting her new single from Daddy's Little Girls, that was a blip on the radar segment in the 11th hour. Just like that radio interview with Miss Sophia that Rocky came in and took over, hiding behind a door somewhere and not on camera. And instead of talking about Latasha's career and her music and what she had coming up, they talked about that in the 11th hour of the show. He spent the entire time talking about Kandi and destroying her name. There is a clear pattern of behavior here. But again, without the interest, without the views, and without the compensation, I'm just going to stop it right here. And I also want to say spoiler alert, in the part that's coming up about Tiny, what I'm saying is there was a domino effect. That's all. Stress was a contributing factor. I've read 4 to 5 articles. She mentioned it directly in one, alluded to it in another, and then the rest of it is just common sense. The point that I'm trying to make, people, is your actions and what we do causes an outward ripple and an effect, even if it is unintended, on other people. Please treat your loved ones better. That's it. That's all. Let's continue. It's very bizarre that Tamika was running her mouth about everything else and she was pulling receipts from 10 years ago. But when you say that he wanted to blackmail you in 2006, you stopped just shy as to what exactly he was blackmailing you for or what he was trying to blackmail you into. Now, one of my conspiracy theories is the reason why she didn't divulge that is because she was back in Kandi's good graces and they had moved on and she was trying to get money now with the group, even if it was just going to be the trio, right? So she didn't want to bring that old stuff up again. She said that on this newest show with SWV and Escape, and on the previous show with the Escape Just Kicking It. She had said that I don't want to bring that back up again. Like, let that die, let that heal, right? But what if that is what he saved it for? I have a couple of theories on that. So one of them is we're going to need you to shut Kandi Burruss up. Sick of her. She's always saying that Latasha, is the reason why the group broke up, and that's making it harder for Tasha to land a deal, so forth and so on. And so since she's making Tasha out to be problematic, I want you to just go on the radio and say nasty things about her. I mean, because you say you're defending your sister, but you have to think about the long time period that had been. You know what I'm saying? Since the group broke up, the group disbanded in 1999. Tasha had 2 flop albums by then? So there's no way that you could really still think that Kandi is the problem or Kandi is the reason why Tasha can't get a major label record deal. That dog won't hunt. So what is it that they were trying to do? Wasn't this around the time that Kandi had her own solo project coming out? They ended up eventually getting shelved. And then she was trying to do the thing with Rashida with Peach Kandi. But she was doing everything except for coming back to the group to record, on Unchained and get in with that. Couple of things. First and foremost, it is worth noting that Kandi and Tiny did dueling Peaches groups, not with each other. So you had the Georgia Peach Girls, Gap Girls versus Peach Kandi. And then also neither one of them were messing with the Scott sisters. Isn't that weird to you all? This 2006 to 2007 period was really, really weird for Escape. It really was. That's the first thing that I want to say. Another thing that I want to say is support at Pretty Brown Rise on all platforms. I need more followers. I have to get to the income. Thank you. Let's continue. And about Unchained, that was another thing. Remember, Latasha, when your former bestie of the group, Tiny, said that you all were giving her an ultimatum of, Rocky is going to be my manager. Rocky's going to be the manager of the group. And we have to sign the record deal under his record label. And that's the deal. That's what we're doing. And you all can either take it or leave it. Remember, Latasha is the one that loves to give people ultimatums, right? Remember I talked about that in the last video? I'm going to give the record label an ultimatum. If you all kick my pregnant sister out of the group, then you'll have to find 2 new people, because if she goes, I go. Ultimatum. Next ultimatum. If you all want me to record the 3rd album, then you have to agree to give me my own solo deal, or I won't even record the 3rd album. Traces of my lipstick, remember? Ultimatum. So this is what she does. Then a few years later, after that album got shelved, that Life Goes On album got shelved, she did it to Kandi when her money ran dry and her opportunities ran dry. And she wanted to get the group back together then all of a sudden. She did it to Kandi, who was coming out with her own solo project at the time. Either you can get back in the group right now and help me get out of this debt and go make this money, or you have to sign a leaving member notice. Remember that? Ultimatum. She loves to give people ultimatums when she's not winning. Was this one of them? I'm just curious, because you all have had a weird obsession with Kandi for a very long time. And Tamika has been brainwashed almost since birth, it seems, to be the attack dog and the guard of her sister, right? So is that the reason why? Let me put a little bit more sauce on it, because it was a number of people that got sprayed in that interview. I want you all to recall that she not only, in the process of saying that Kandi slept around, you have to remember who she was saying that Kandi slept with. So she said the whole so-so deaf, that's generic. But specifically, she said she slept with Jermaine and his daddy. Now, that's just bizarre. I don't think most people with a brain would really believe that, right? Him and his daddy, like, that's a bit far, right? And so what we do know is Jermaine and Kandi did, kick it or whatever, had a little fling for some months or whatever. But that was like around the time of the second album. So that was already over by the time you all were going into the third album. So that couldn't have had anything to do with why the group broke up. That dog never did hunt. Makes no sense. It was a red herring the entire time. You all didn't have any type of real reasoning. You didn't want to take personal responsibility. And so what you did was the most patriarchal trope historically known to man, which is anytime a woman is successful or whatever, call her a whore, basically. Take away all of her talent and all of her accomplishments and say that the only reason that she's successful is because she slept her way to the top. Right? That old red herring. And it never made any sense. It never made sense. Why would who Jermaine Dupri is sleeping with be the cause for the group breaking up when after they started sleeping together, before they started sleeping together, she was the main soloist on most of the songs. After they started sleeping together, then that's when you were getting all of the solo songs or whatever, the big parts, because they were setting you up for your solo project. That dog never did hunt. Didn't make any sense. Y'all did that just to smear Kandi's name. But about that, the two people that you used, Latasha has this whole blame game. So she blames Kandi for her album not coming out. But who else does she blame? Jermaine Dupri, of course, because, of course, he owns So Def. So when he stopped doing dealings with that one parent company, they had a joint venture between Columbia and Sony, for distribution, and the other was the main parent label that they were working with, right? So when he broke that deal up, and basically left that parent company, that's why her album got shelved, or so they say. It can't just be that nobody wanted to work with you and they tricked you into thinking that you were going to put out that solo album so that they could get you to record that third album. It can't be that, huh, Tasha? It can't be that you're just not as great as you think you are and you're one trick pony. You can sing and sing only. You don't have the look. You don't have an amazing dance skill. You don't have a great personality. You don't work well with others. You are a one trick pony. You can sing and sing only, right? Gospel riffs and runs come a dime a dozen in R&B. You can walk in any church in the South and find somebody that can do what you do. You're just not that special. But that can't be it. It has to be a conspiracy theory behind it. You just lined up everybody around you and made them your problem. So first it was Kandi because she slept with everybody. And then it was Jermaine Dupri because he left you high and dry. He left you hanging. And then you also blamed Michael Malden. Anybody remember that? Go back and watch Escape, Still Kicking It. Michael Malden had also left that same parent company. But of course, now we know from Kandi's speak on it, he had gotten fired more specifically. So, and let me just go back to this whole idea of the patriarchy. See, what this proves is no matter what title you give a black man, and when you think he's in charge, they actually have no real power. See, behind every powerful black man with a label or with some sort of title, there's a whole gang of white men that's actually controlling things. So at best, they're just the front guy or the straw balls, that handles the Negroes. Because literally, Michael Malden's title was he was over the black division. Seriously. Anybody black, we throwing them over here in this corner. We're not going to specify what type of music they sing, what genre it is, just the black division. We have to have black people for the illusion of inclusion. So we're going to put this black guy over that division. Yeah. He didn't have any real power. So they tossed him out after he had served his time, and he was no longer the glorified overseer of the other Negroes, right? So he didn't have any real power. But not only that, he had been left so deaf, and stopped had dealings with that even before Jermaine did. So what you said and still kicking it was, after you had just acknowledged that he wasn't even with the company anymore, you said, but also I just felt like you could have looked out for me, or you could have guided me through the process when you ended up on that record label, that $300,000 advance back, right? You said that Michael, you wanted Michael Malden. You felt like he should have been able to come in and intercede or like intervene or speak on your behalf. How? They had just tossed him out like yesterday's trash after working for them for the better part of a decade. Why would you think that he has any pull with a record label that he does not work with anymore? But again, you just need to use people as a scapegoat instead of owning it yourself. Also, mind you, Michael Malden was the guy that they hid behind to deliver the bad news to tell your sister when she was 18 years old that she needs to either have an abortion and stay in the group or keep the baby and you're out the group. That came out of Michael Malden's mouth. But once again, he doesn't run anything. That came from the top. He's just the bearer of bad news. So you had a couple of reasons to dislike Michael Malden. So it's no surprise that you got your sister to get on the radio and wrap everybody up in a bow. But there's one extra element to this, one other conspiracy theory to this. And in order to understand it, we're first going to have to listen to Rocky's very own words.
When people do silly stuff in life, I'm Mr. Fix-It. Olivia Pope or somebody that's connected to the president or the highest gang member in the street or the highest cartel member. You see what I'm saying? It's more to me than people know. It ain't just R. Kelly, it's Michael Jackson, it's Britney Spears, it's Trey Songz, it's Tamar Braxton.
Now, wait, what? Now, you said Michael Jackson, Trey Songz, R. Kelly. Why in the world would Tamar Braxton be on the end of that list? Like, what? Wait, what? Why would Tamar Braxton's name? What would happen to where you would need to be the fixer or Olivia Pope for Tamar Braxton? Didn't nobody find that to be bizarre? Okay, so let's just explore that one a little bit more. See, here's the thing. I don't know if some of you have forgotten or you just never knew to begin with, but Rocky credits himself or prides himself on being the person who got Tamar her first solo deal with DreamWorks back in the day, like around the same time frame that Kandi was coming out, right? And so that was the thing. But, she had been dropped from that deal. And then come time around like 2004, she was with Tommy Mottola, Mariah's ex-husband, had gotten this Casablanca, like it was just this one-off nothing type of subsidiary company. And Tamar was supposed to be on that and she got shelved. So it would seem as though she was kind of in desperation mode to kind of get an album going and so forth and so on. Now, remember, Rocky said that when people do stupid stuff and get themselves in some trouble, he has to come in and be the fixer. He has to come in and be Olivia Pope. These are some interesting words. And again, honey, all of this is alleged and this is just a conspiracy theory. But you know what would be crazy to me? I don't know if you all recall K. Michelle on one of her rants. This was around 2020 when she was talking about she was going back and forth with Tamar and calling her a Muppet and saying about her sleeping with married men. And she said, well, that's why you slept with Jermaine Dupri's daddy and Jermaine Dupri's mama, which the brat coincidentally cleared it up and said, no, that wasn't JD's mama. JD's mama is Mama Tina. It wasn't JD's mama, but it was a woman that Michael Malden was with. It was either his girlfriend at the time or his second wife. It wasn't JD's mama, but they got into a fight in the elevator. She beat Tamar up in the elevator for sleeping with Michael Malden. Wouldn't it be something if the person who actually slept with Michael Malden to try to get ahead or to try to get a solo deal or so forth and so on was actually that's what Tamar was doing? Because see, K. Michelle mentioned it in 2020, but this had happened by the time she came out and told it. That had happened literally over a decade ago. So by my calculations, that happened somewhere between 2004 and 2010. What if it fell during that time frame and you just decided to wrap it all up in a bow, use Kandi as a red herring to deflect from Tamar, which you all have done one heck of a job scrubbing that from the internet, honey. But the North still remembers. Somebody get Sandra Rose on the line, baby. Now, see, you got to be an OG to know where I'm going with that. Somebody get Sandra Rose on the line because she knows that tea because she spilled that tea. It was just literally forever ago. It was forever ago. So wouldn't that be bizarre if you just got to maim everybody that you hated all in one blow, but then you also got to cover for your homegirl? And yes, she is your homegirl because remember, when Tasha was down and out or whatever after her first flop, Tamar let Tasha write on her album, sing the background vocals on her album. So Tamar is all mixed up and intertwined with Rocky and Latasha, which might be the reason why Tasha was getting her life when Tamar was going against Kandi and Todd, right? That whole mess. Remember, it was a whole lot of windmilling in the streets and it was a Kandi hate train. And the three of them were on it at the same time against Kandi and Todd. Ain't that a weird coincidence or conspiracy? Let's move on. So remember, I told you that 2006 to 2007 was the worst of times for all of the rest of the group, right? Well, let's get to my dear sweet Tiny. I don't know if you all remember this, but 2007, March 22nd, 2007 to be precise, is when Tiny had to deliver her stillborn baby, which would have been her and Tip's first daughter together. So she was 6 months pregnant at the time. And what triggered it was stress. She had a lot of stress in her personal relationship, but the stress in her personal relationship, I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm pointing out a coincidence. She said that the stress in her personal relationship came from her trying to go back and get back with the group and trying to do the group thing. So she sacrificed her relationship to go be with the group. And what she said was she gave up all of this for something that ended up not being 100% and ended up not working out. What we need to recognize at this moment is that the reason that it did not work out specifically was because Tasha and Rocky, once again, she refused to be separated from him. No, Rocky has to be my manager. Rocky has to, we have to do the deal under his little fake label, whatever, and y'all can take it or leave it. And so as Tamika said, so we left it. So you had just neglected Tip and gone through all of that. And then this deal ended up not working. Okay, so I just had to cut that short, but needless to say that the stress was the first domino that fell and it caused an outward ripple, okay? And when Tiny was well again and when T.I. was in jail and all of that, Tiny did not come back to the group, or at least not the whole group. She came back and got Keisha Baby Miles, which was the Kandi replacement, and then they got together and they did that Gap Girls, the Georgia Peaches, remember? Okay, and then after that was when they went into reality TV. In fact, everybody went into reality TV. So Keisha Baby Miles, some years later, ended up doing the Pregnant and Dating. And then around that same time, while that was on air, was around the time that they were shopping around people for season 2 of R&B Divas. And Latasha ended up being casted on that. But let's stop right there for a moment, because we have to circle back around. See, Tasha got tapped for R&B Divas Atlanta around 2012, 2013, because it ended up airing in 2013, which means this was around what time? Lord have mercy. This was around the time that Tamika was pregnant with Armani and her money was being stolen. So I have a couple of questions about that stolen money in the 2012-2013 timeframe. My first question, of course, is the low-hanging fruit, but I doubt this one. Had you paid off that record company or filed for bankruptcy by then, or did you take the money so that you could help pay that deal off? Now, that one, I don't believe so much. Maybe, but maybe not. What we do know is that you were broke, busted, and disgusted, and your grown self, your grown husband, and who else, child, was your half-grown son living there too? I mean, inquiring minds want to know, but the point is you were back living with your mom. So how is it that by the time R&B Divas came on, we got this nice little house out here? Latasha's house. The lies you tell. Latasha live at home in her mama's basement or whatever y'all was doing. So, Tasha, whose house is this? This little staged house with this Renaissance of furniture that was on R&B Divas that you were pretending to live in. Did you steal Tamika's money so that you could fake your lifestyle and look rich and famous or whatever, look like you were doing well, so that you could secure that deal and get that role on R&B Divas? Is that what you were using Tamika's money for? I mean, the questions just keep on coming, but as it pertains to the problems, they all lead back to you. So in conclusion, whereas there were many contributing factors to why Escape didn't work out, ultimately, the one common denominator in every situation is always Latasha. She was the problem back then, and she's still the problem now. If you appreciated this hard work, please go to prettybrownrise.com, click the support tab, and give what you can.